she has to be thinking.
Got ready?
That'd be like having a food truck.
Let's come to order. Today is Tuesday, May the 2nd. We're at the Civic Center for our pre-agenda workshop. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
Mr. Albrecht.
Here.
Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Putnam.
Here.
I'm going to take a moment of privilege. The folks that voted for me for re-election, I appreciate it very much. Unfortunately, it didn't work out just right for me. I'm very disappointed that I'm not able to serve another term. Do you wonder why I'm still here? I'm still the mayor until June the 5th, and when Mr. Cathy gets sworn in. We've got a little bit of work to do this month. We hope to get it all done. But again, I'm not a bitter person. I have always taken the high road as mayor. I haven't stooped to any level, and I intend to do that in this coming month. But I will have some parting comments next Tuesday. First item on the agenda is enforcement of city codes. Mr. McLaughlin.
This came about basically in my own mind a few weeks ago. I was just reflecting over being a new member, things as I came in. There's no booklet that says how to be a council member or anything. And it occurred to me that in talking to some of the people I've talked to, and as they've talked to me, that I get the feeling sometimes they really think I personally can resolve their issue, which may be an ordinance issue. I personally can help them, as each one of us can, and work with them. And I thought, when I was thinking about that, I thought, it would be a good thing if there was something in the ordinances that I could hang my hat on that would say, hey, I'd love to help you, but I'm tied. I can't make a change myself. We have to do it as this and try and get them to work with me and work with them. And that then went on to say, okay, could something like that help someone else if we had really plain language that I can't do anything? And it occurred to me that basically all of us up here at this table probably from time to time have been pushed with people who feel we individually should be able to do something where it really takes we collectively to do something. And so I kind of wrote this statement up that's up on the screen that basically says that no one at the table can really individually change an ordinance or stop an ordinance or set it aside, except if there's some kind of emergency that would put the public in danger. And then obviously we would want the mayor or the MEL to be able to say, we're going to set this aside for a period of time. But my feeling was, even with that, once that was done, it really would need to come back to the council as a whole, not to see if it was a right decision, but to see if there was something that in our ordinance that wasn't right and would give us the opportunity of figuring out how to make it better if that's what needed to be done. Or if something similar came up in the future, what would be the best way to handle it if that wasn't the best way? So my feeling is, I guess, for us, for our employees, when someone new like me would walk in and maybe walk in and start talking to someone, they wouldn't be fearful I might want to tell them something that they shouldn't be able to, they shouldn't have to do and so forth with the ordinance. So I was just proposing that maybe something written similar to this that says what our limits are would be beneficial to quite a few people, including new people on the block, as I felt I've been. So if I'm just throwing it out there right now, if it's something that the rest of the council members would think would be good, or that would be, our attorney thinks that might be acceptable, then I would love to see it go in the ordinance, because personally, for someone new, I think it would be a benefit.
Okay. Comments?
Would that be the best place for it if we did that, to put it in an ordinance? Or is there any other place that it could be put?
You could pass it by a resolution form if you wish, but of course that can be unchanged at the next meeting. An ordinance is a little bit more forceful and more permanent.
I do have some comment about that. our form of government is the mayor council form of government. The only real difference between the mayor and council members is that the mayor is the chief elected administrative official and also the chief financial officer by charter.
Right.
Does that give me a whole lot more authority than any other member on the council? No, it does not. For example, even signing checks, one of the other council members has to sign checks with me. Is it my responsibility to make sure Adrian does his job? It is. But is it my job to give him instruction outside of what the council has directed him to do as a council employee? No, it's not. Same thing with the city administrator. We're both administrative officers for the city. He has a very defined list of duties in our personnel policies and some ordinances. So can I go tell Mel what to do? No, I can press on him real hard, but that hadn't worked so far. So I don't think it would work the next month. But it is important. I've seen some things done in the past that I don't really agree with personally. And I know that, and I don't know if the chief knows this, but I know in the past the police department was instructed not to write tickets for DUIs or speeding in Mexico Beach. That's absurd. And one person directed him to do that, or his predecessor. That's absolutely incorrect. And that would be the same thing as somebody here asking me to do something special for them that I was not empowered to do. So yeah, there's a little difference, but our charter is still clear. It's 5 votes. They're equal votes, no vote trumps anybody else's vote, and it is a majority or a supermajority depending on what we're talking about. So I don't see any problem with an ordinance that would reinforce that. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but I believe it might clear up some ambiguity in some people's minds along the way.
Well, I know it's all, out there in different ordinances, different places, charter and so forth. I just thought it might be nice to have it in one place, plain language, not a lot of stuff around it.
I could add some comments to what the mayor said. I generally agree with everything said. And to add to it, this is the legislative body that sets the policies, adopts the ordinances. So there isn't really a discretion on the part of whether it's the city administrator or the mayor, whether or not to enforce those ordinances. They're on the books. There are certain duties just carrying out business that they're both going to be responsible for, but there isn't really a basis to ignore a validly adopted ordinance that doesn't already include some sort of exception in it. So what we're really talking about is already the law.
Yeah, I realized it was there. I just, like I said, as a newbie, it would, to me, kind of would be nice sometimes as I'm talking to someone saying, let me help you, but let me, show you this paragraph. I can't really, change it for you.
Right.
But I can help you get it to the council and so forth. Because that's where it really started from, was being new.
It's hard to picture any harm in adopting an ordinance to that effect. I'd say before we proceed, we want to compare it to what's in the charter and make sure that we're consistent. But the general idea, while it's not necessary, I think it's acceptable if you want to proceed with something like that.
What's your pleasure?
Well, like I said, I would like to see it in there, but it's up to this. I'm throwing this out to everyone. I wouldn't have proposed it if I wouldn't like to see something like it.
I hear what Bill's saying. I don't know that we need another ordinance to say that. Many times people will come, and I'm sure we've all been there and said, it's a 5 vote. It's not 1. One person can't make the decision. It's 5 votes. So I'm sure we've all, and I've said, why don't you type up a request, send it on to Mel and the council members, and we can address it that way, because we all have to vote on it. So I'm not sure that we need another ordinance, but I'm open. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't know that we need it.
have an opinion?
I don't want to hurt Bill's feelings,
Not gonna happen.
because I don't know that it's necessary. I understand where he's coming from. I think we've all had conversation, just like you're talking about. But once you have to explain it to one person, it kind of comes out naturally thereafter. So we've got a lot of stuff written down already. Your turn.
My turn. If it's covered already, then, then it's covered. I sometimes feel like Bill, though, people have come up here before with some problems, and I'm wondering, what are they up here for? I can't fix that. So I think what Bill's saying is just defining, giving us some boundaries, real clear. I'm not opposed to it. If that's the way we want to go.
I don't think we're all excited about this.
Didn't expect it to be.
Under our current rules, you can draft any first reading that you like. Put it on the agenda.
Well, I would like for Nick to take a look at it. I think you should anyway before you do anything, and whether it would be an ordinance or whether it would be, in some other way.
Well, an ordinance or a resolution is the only way to
Yeah.
emphasize
I know.
the thing. We can drafting a resolution this week. All we can do is draft a first reading before next week.
Fine with me?
Resolution?
That's fine. I just would be nice to have something to hang something on once in a while.
Simpler, it doesn't involve the advertising costs. It's reaffirming current policy instead of confusing the issue of maybe stating new policy. That's fine.
Okay.
All right. We'll put a resolution for enforcement of city codes and clarificate. It was really a resolution about the powers of council members regarding city codes. Next item on the list is the federal courthouse resolution. Mel, I know something about this. The bottom line is, if we don't get a new courthouse in Panama City, it's likely to move up to Jackson County. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there any more to this than that?
Not really. This is just an attempt to get some county-wide support for keeping the courthouse, and so they're asking all municipalities to pass a resolution in support. So I included the Panama City Beach version. If you wish to go ahead for next week's approval, I'll get it, the names changed and the dates and all that changed to Mexico Beach.
Well, personally, I'm in support of keeping the courthouse in Panama City.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
By consensus, the majority would like to see that.
All right.
Mel, project update.
As you all know, we've got a lot of projects out there right now. Some are nearing completion. Others maybe not as getting done as quickly as we'd like. But one good thing is, as you all know, we're in City Hall now. There's still some items that we have yet to finish before we can say we're completely done. Number one is the movable files won't be installed until this coming Monday. So in a little less than a week now, that should be finished. Once that's complete, then the carpet in that room can be complete, and then we could move on down the road. Once that's in, we will set a public open house for the public to view that, probably that next week. Give us a little time to get that prepared, the word out as to what the date and time and that sort of thing. So in 2 weeks, we'll be doing the open house. The hole in 7th and Maryland, they fixed the pipe today. It just took them 1 day to fix it, so that's good news indeed. They're filling it back in. They're going to go ahead and let us drive over it for a few days, kind of compact it, and then put the asphalt back on a little bit later. So good news indeed that it didn't take as long to fix as we thought.
Mel, is it in their contract that they will put the asphalt on? Or do we have to contract that out to someone else?
I don't have the answer to that off the top of my head.
No.
It would make sense. They're an asphalt company.
usually that is. Another project, of course, is the canal. That's the one that is going on a little bit longer than we'd like. Last word I heard is that we should be done that week, the week before Memorial Day. That's about 3 weeks away. Is there any update on that, Jeff, than what I just said?
That's correct, that's the timeline for substantial completion.
Jeff, how many days is that over contract?
That's kind of a gray area because it gets back to when the U.S. Coast Guard approved the channel marker locations. So from that date forward, that would put it about 7 to 10 days beyond contract for substantial completion.
Even though we gave him that change order, that has nothing to do with the rest of the canal project. He doesn't get extra days for the whole project just because we added something on the end.
Well, there's also, if you go back and compute it from the day that he was supposed to have substantial completion on January 3rd, there's about 89 days of added work to the canal project from change orders, from the extension of the seawall down by the mouth of the canal to the concrete associated with that to other adds all the way through the project. If you go back and add all those dates to it, that puts you into right around that same time frame. So May 8th, May 9th, May 10th, somewhere in there.
So in our contract, did we have, if they don't finish by a certain date?
Yeah, there's liquidated damages in the contract, and there's 2 different days of when it could kick in. The first instance is if they're not complete, or not substantially complete by the date that they're supposed to be substantially complete. If you go from that date, calculating it out, it's $1,500 per day. And so if it's, obviously, if it's 10 days, it's $15,000. So getting to that actual final contract date, taking into account this Coast Guard approval for a portion of the project, is still kind of a gray area.
When will we know the black and white date?
We could know that by the next meeting. I can present that then. I'd like to put the timelines together and then discuss it with Nick. Make sure that we're heading in the right direction.
I do want to piggyback on what Tom said. What does the Coast Guard have to do? Why isn't the rest of it finished? The rest of it shouldn't be not finished because we're waiting for what the Coast Guard wants us to do in the water. I mean, they're 2 different.
Well, with it encompassing the entire project, there are tons of different tasks that add up towards the total date of when the contract is due, what governs an extension, what allows them to get more time. Every time we ask them to do an add-on to the project, that's certain days that we are acknowledging that it's going to take them to do the work. All of the different series that we've had 6 change orders so far, and we'll have a 7th change order presented at the next meeting, and it'll encompass all of the material deductions that the city paid for out of pocket to save on the sales tax, and then a series of small change orders that have taken place over the course of the project to finish out the fine details. One of those areas is in between where the retaining wall is with the Salt Creek culvert versus where our retaining wall comes in and ties in. There was a small gap there that needed to be addressed so that we wouldn't have continually having soil washing through those 2 walls and undermining that road there. That's included in that change order. The demoing of the concrete cap at the mouth of the canal on top of that concrete retaining wall that we're tying into for the seawall at the tail end, that's wrapped up there. The protection of the face of that in between the end of our steel seawall and the jetties, that's wrapped up into that change order. There was a flume that was added on the north end of the first run of the canal to collect stormwater runoff from the street and channel it down into the canal without washing out in and around the existing riprap that was there. that's added into that change order. All these small things, where we're gonna have our ADA ramp on the east-west run, that existing concrete rolls, it undulates, it wouldn't meet ADA standards or cross slopes. So that's gonna be demoed and replaced, that small item's added in there. So I think the total was around $37,000 to $40,000 of adds over the course of the project. They're of course deducted versus the money that's coming off the contract to the city, which is $800,000 and change, I believe. Adrian, does that sound right? In that ballpark? It is. It's in the neighborhood of $800,000.
You know, I can understand if it's the same crew and you have to wait for a change order or for somebody else to make a decision, but the concrete folks are not the same crew for the mouth of the canal, correct? Most of them aren't. So why that's taken so long and holding it up, but that's just my opinion. I just don't understand why
We don't have a contract with the concrete crew.
Correct. It's all Harder's responsibility to get the performance.
Right.
Right,
You're
so,
100% correct in that.
so he should have been pushing them harder.
Yes.
Now, whose job was it to get the permit from the Coast Guard to put the poles in? We've known for a year and a half it was supposed to be done.
Well, we had a conversation with them last August, and they said submit 30 days prior to when you plan on installing them, and we'll give you your approval. Well, we submitted 30 days prior to when we plan on installing them, and we got a email back from them saying, this is unacceptable, you haven't coordinated with us the whole time, and we'll give you an approval by April 24th. Then the city followed up with them again and said, you'll get your approval by, and the Coast Guard came out and said, you'll get your approval by May 1st. Philip and I had a call with the Coast Guard on the 26th of April and talked through what we were doing and what the project, the portion of the project is. And he said, we take no exception to that. It's approved. So we were coordinating with them. And we submitted just as they said to submit. And things changed from the time we were told that to when we actually let them know.
We didn't have it in writing, huh?
We have an email from August, I think, when we were communicating with them, but that didn't help us much.
Any questions about that? Go ahead, man.
All right. The boat ramp. There was a desire to put a freezer / cooler, whatever you want to call it, out there. I had some email exchanges with the St. Joe Company. We've been trying to connect the past 2 days, but when I called, they're out of the office, phone tag type thing, and called again this afternoon and they were out, so they called this morning and I was in deposition, so that didn't work out either, so I'll try to touch base again. But at this point, we have talked about putting the freezer east of the concrete pad, which is the handicap parking. The St. Joe Company did have a little bit of problem with us talking about putting the cooler on top of the concrete. They would rather it be off to the side and it would remain handicap parking on the concrete pad. Next to that would be the fish cleaning stations. And we've had numerous conversations with the county. They don't want us to take all the fish remains into their sewer system. So we talked about maybe putting a gravity line into the canal. FWC and DEP don't want to permit fish cleaning stations. They said it's acceptable to take the blood, shall we say, into the canal, and that should be acceptable with all of the little pinfish and critters that would eat that up. They don't see that as a problem. So all we're waiting for now is the St. Joe Company to give us the final green light. We'll proceed. We will need to know the load on the electrical for the cooler, and I can get with the mayor and get that out because you've got the contact person on the freezer.
And that's been going on now for 90 days. Round and around and around.
Exactly.
And it's our solution to fish cleaning, and it's getting, now we're a month from critical meltdown,
Correct.
okay?
So there's no problem with putting the blood right in the canal? We can do that?
Word from DEP is, it's not.
Can we have it in writing?
We're talking about strained water, no solids.
Exactly.
Right.
As for bathrooms out there, Philip will be getting some porta potties out there that will be there all summer. He'll get those out the week before Memorial Day, that way we can get that cooking for everyone. I think that completes my list. If you have any questions about anything else that I might have left off.
In the budget amendment coming up, Adrian, did we move money from that pot of money at the boat ramp so we can use the money?
I didn't have it on the list, but I can.
No, we need to put some on, don't have to put all of it on there necessarily, but we need to put some that'll take care of the installation of the pipe and this and that that have to do with the fish cleaning stations. Utility tax can pay for installation of the power drop and stuff like that. That's a utility. There's a power drop going to the station to power the cooler.
Were we using canal money or boat ramp money down there?
Canal money for the actual building of the fish cleaning stations and buying the cooler
Okay, and then the utility tax fund for the drop.
for the drop and the water line.
And nothing from the boat ramp fund.
The boat ramp fund is going to pay for maintenance of the facility and which includes all the heads and the extra labor to wash up from time to time and this and that. That's at least what we talked about 3 months ago.
As far as the change for budget amendment on the canal fund, I was waiting until the canal project was done so we knew what was one. Because we don't have a hard number of what it's going to cost us yet.
We're going to have to get real close if we can make this happen in the next month, which is absolutely imperative that we get something taken care of. But look at that closely this week, because we've got this vote on the, we got a vote coming up real soon on all the changes. And we need to wrap it up this month, even if we have to do a special meeting to finish it up.
So the boat rent money is going to take care of the maintenance, basically. It can't pay for the freezer?
Well, it could, but we got fish cleaning stations already in the budget for the canal
Okay,
project.
okay.
It's already in that pot of money for the fish
Right.
cleaning stations, and the cooler is taking the place of the grinder
Okay.
and so
Okay.
forth and so on.
All right.
And it just needs to be pulled together. Go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
That's all I have on projects, if there's no other questions.
Okay. Then let's talk about the coastal parasail contract.
I've been in contact with the coastal parasail people, and what we've done is we had originally talked about them picking up leave no trace items on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But in light of the fact our crews are keeping up with leave no trace at this point on the weekdays, we felt that the Friday we might be able to do in-house. But we do feel that having coastal parasail do that on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday is the way to go, because Saturday will take care of people coming in for the weekends. Sunday will take care of people coming in on Saturday, and Monday will take care of people coming in on the Sunday. Exceptions to that, of course, are during some of the holidays. So starting in May, we would do it May the 27th on that Saturday, all the way through the 31st of May. The city would take care of it that Thursday and Friday. Then the whole month of June would be Saturday, Sunday, and Monday by coastal parasail. July would be Saturday and Sunday, Monday by coastal parasail, with the exception of July 4th on a Tuesday, 5th and 6th and 7th. That's a pretty busy week for us, one of the biggest ones. August, it would be a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday throughout the whole month. In September, that would be The 2nd of September, of course, is the Labor Day weekend, so Coastal Parasail would do it that Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We would then pick up the rest of the month, they would pick up the rest of the month on Saturdays and Sundays, because that's when things are starting to wind down a little bit. So we felt the Mondays during late September we could take care of. Bottom line is that comes up to 58 total trips by Coastal Parasail. At $300 a trip, that's roughly $17,400. We've gotten, or we'll be getting $11,800 from the CDC, which means we would come up with the additional $5,600. So we tried to be as low on this as possible so as not to pad the contract. But with Coastal Parasail, we'll be getting the contract within the next couple days for your decision next week. But there will be a clause in there we could add or detract some of those dates as we see fit. You know, because being the first year doing this, there's a lot of unknowns at this point. So we'll have the ability to, on the fly, make some changes. And we had anticipated that $5,600, I think we previously talked about coming from utility tax, if I'm not mistaken.
So what's ahead?
That was the
So that would
largest.
require a budget amendment on that.
That could come later down the road, though. If we didn't need it, we wouldn't have to do that.
Because of our ability to approve things less than $8,000, is that what you?
That and we may not spend that money.
That's right, we don't know at this point.
We may spend it ourselves.
Without question.
There are some unknowns. For example, I don't know if Leave No Trace is going to survive this summer. I know there are people that want to repeal Leave No Trace. I know that people want gross changes to Leave No Trace. Right now, it's an ordinance on the books, and we're not fully enforcing it. And that's something that we've got to resolve.
How are we not fully enforcing it?
Well, Mr. Vasquez right there has not been in compliance with Leave No Trace a single day since it started March the 1st. That's an issue that this council's got to resolve.
Right, we are taking his chairs, but we decided to leave the storage boxes and the jet skis alone.
We didn't decide to leave the jet skis.
That is correct.
In fact, he came back and put down another set of chairs after we picked up the first set of chairs. That is gross civil disobedience.
And we took those last week.
Well, I feel like it may be time to enforce this ordinance and ordinance 10.99. You hear me, Chief? I'm not directing individually, but this is an ordinance on the books that this council hasn't chose to change. If you continue to be insubordinate and not comply with Leave No Trace, 10.99 says you can go to jail for 60 days.
Yes, sir.
All we've asked you all this time is to comply with Leave No Trace.
Up to when over here.
We are.
That's it.
Put it on the agenda to discuss Mr. Vasquez's business next Tuesday. Planning and zoning recommendations, Mel.
Was somewhat of a light agenda at the planning and zoning meeting last night. There were a number of items they were asked by the council to review. Number one was the location for the medical marijuana. There was discussion where they did get a copy of the Bay County ordinance, they did get a copy of the Panama City Beach ordinance. They reviewed it, and there is a desire to be compatible with the other ordinances around Bay County for obvious reasons. So they did like the 500 feet away from the zone residential areas and things of that sort, the condition of use that's in the current ordinances. So what they had suggested to the council was to have, proceed with crafting an ordinance similar to that of the other municipalities and the county around Bay County.
Say that one more time, I didn't catch everything.
To craft an ordinance that is compatible with the language that is already on the books from Bay County and the other municipalities around Bay County.
Ask a question.
haven't
I
read
think
those.
there's some variations between what the cities are adopting versus the county, and then the cities versus the cities. Would it, were they suggesting to model it primarily after the county, or to try to come up with maybe a conglomerate of the different areas? I'm not sure that there's one consistent one.
Well, they asked our city attorney
Okay.
to go through that and kind of make a recommendation.
Okay.
There was the Bay County one that was in the packet, the Panama City Beach was provided at the meeting. So that, the two predominant ones they were looking at.
I believe the Bay County ordinance, I think, is a little simpler. Panama City Beach has a little bit more detail. I know they also added a maximum number for the city. I think they put 3 for the city. They debated over that a fair amount.
We don't need more than 3.
We don't need more than one.
We have to have one.
Yeah.
We have to have one.
We've got to have enough detail in this ordinance as a city that we're going into the medical marijuana business very shortly. We've got to have enough specifics in our ordinance that is special to, or not special to, specific to Mexico Beach. Such as what are the qualifications of the people that we're going to let actually do this? Do they have to have any medical background? Do they have to be qualified to have this business? What kind of business is this? It's new to the state. Yeah, we can craft it like another city. If they already done the work, fine, but we've got to have some specifics.
One of the ordinances had some specific questions to ask during the process of the conditional use process.
Yeah, I believe that's Panama City Beach. Some of those questions will be answered by the legislature. They're getting ready to adopt
Right.
some legislation now. It's not done yet. But I do know that the Panama City Beach ordinance envisioned the possibility of more companies applying than there were spaces for available, and they had a scoring system to pick and choose.
Yeah, because I need a job next month. I may want to open up a dispensary.
Are you qualified?
I'd like to know what the rules, I'm qualified. I've never smoked marijuana, so I'm certainly qualified. Ever. Write that down, Lisa. Never have I smoked marijuana.
We have to have it, huh?
You actually don't. I think you just fall into treating it as just a normal commercial business if you didn't adopt something. I don't think you, we probably want to look through the land development code just to make sure that it would fit neatly under a commercial type business, but I think that would be the result you'd have.
I think just any general commercial business should be able to do this. And any zoning, general commercial. What about tourist commercial?
We'd have to look. I think when we looked at it back a couple months ago, it was a little bit gray on tourist commercial, if I recall correctly. You remember, Mel?
It was.
It was more clear on the general commercial.
Okay, Mel?
Next couple items they talked about was minimum lot size and minimum size for living space for residents. They've kind of had some discussion on it last night, but in the end they wanted some specific research done, which was for us to go around to all the major subdivisions in town and kind of let them know what the average lot size is in those subdivisions, as well as the average size for the living spaces, and kind of use that as a guide as to the decision-making process. And the other thing was I let them know that our planning consultant will be at the June 5th P&Z meeting to discuss the revamp of the competency plan. She said specifically in 2011 there were some changes and the state requirements for comp plans, and we need to come into compliance, so those are some minimum things we have to change. And so the discussion with the P&Z will be the process to make these changes, what does need to be changed, what should be changed, and what they wish to see changed. Without question, I think we should be less specific in our comp plan, so that will be part of the discussion in June. And that is completion.
Okay, miscellaneous.
The only thing that we really have is, as you know, there's a lawsuit filed against the city by Mr. Vasquez. And originally, when submitted, our insurance company said they would cover it and actually assigned an attorney for that purpose. Well, today they're issuing a letter of denial. So now we have to go back to the drawing board and decide, do we wish to have the attorney that they had given the project to complete this, or should we use our own city attorney and his firm to do this on behalf of the city? If you look at the hourly rates, there's not that much difference between 170 and 185. So that is a minimal consideration. But I don't know if you collectively would have an opinion about which way we go on that.
I don't think it's appropriate to talk about an open lawsuit in an open meeting.
Well, we're not talking about the lawsuit in particular, and we will not get into the specifics at all. This is about who's going to carry the freight for us.
I can add some detail. We obviously have a deadline to respond to the complaint, but more immediately, there's already been a case management conference scheduled for Monday morning. That's not anywhere where important things get decided. It's an organizational meeting with the judge. But leading up to that, we've got to know who's going to handle the lawsuit. So, like Mel said, Mr. Warner said he's still happy to do it. He's $185 an hour, which is actually very reasonable for him. He has a lot of experience. He's been litigating a case recently for Walton County that involves property rights on the beach, so he's experienced. The attorney at my firm that I would suggest has spent the better part of the last 2 years litigating a case for Panama City Beach about regulating businesses and them claiming they're being treated unfairly. He's a little cheaper. Under your engagement agreement with me, he'd be $170 an hour. Both very good choices. They'll be in good shape either way. We just need to know who to get ready to go to this meeting Monday morning and who to involve in the case in the meantime.
What's the council's pleasure?
Well, I think we need to stick with Nick's firm. We know them, they've worked with us. If the other lawyer has any questions and they can't get a hold of Mel, I'm sure they can touch base with Nick to say, what do you know about this? I just think that makes common sense. Stick with whom you know.
Yeah, he's right downstairs, and we talk a lot, so that's true.
I don't have a problem with it because we're so very new into the situation that I don't think, if both are very equal in their capabilities, then I have no problem sticking with Nick's.
Also, would rather your firm do it. You're looking after our best interest. Oh.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I'm okay with it.
All right. We have direction.
Just one question. Should we wind up winning the suit and there's money involved with the expense that the city's been out, then who loses the suit, we could expect them to pay the money. Is that correct?
Well, currently they've only filed a declaratory action, and I don't believe there's a fee provision in the statute for that. There's actually, at least for now, nobody's alleging anything about money.
I know, but when we start hiring another attorney,
Oh, I understand. I'll double check, but I don't think there's a provision in the statute to get prevailing party fees for a deck action. I'll check. It's a good question.
Okay. You're just a barrel of monkeys, Mel. What else you got in your?
Well, let me mention one other thing about the lawsuit. Mayor, you brought up a good point. Discussing the case in an open meeting is not really what you want to do. You said you wanted to have an item on the agenda to discuss leave no trace next week. Should we plan on having a closed session to talk about the case, or it's not necessary? But if you want to get more into the details of the case, it would be good for us to go ahead and notice it that way and plan ahead for it and get a court reporter.
We're gonna need to know what happened on Monday.
Um,
You can do that by correspondence.
So what Monday will likely be about, and again, this isn't anything about case strategy, this is just simple information. There's a, part of the complaint is a request for a emergency temporary restraining order from enforcing the ordinance. Basically, don't enforce the ordinance until we've finished the case and decided who's right and who's wrong. I think the Monday morning meeting is going to be to set a date for that hearing to decide that short-term fix and to talk about some of the coordinating details for that.
So is it your recommendation that next Tuesday that we have a closed session to talk about this?
Well, the closed sessions are really geared towards settlement discussions, and I don't necessarily know that there'd be anything as far as a settlement discussion to have. But if you're inclined to want to talk about the case, get some more information, that would be the better avenue to do it in. I don't have a recommendation at this point.
I guess in a way, I wouldn't mind having something so we would all have a better idea of, I guess, the attorney's thoughts based on where he is at this time.
I agree.
And where we should go.
Okay.
30 minutes, is that long enough?
Oh, I think that's fine.
So we're gonna put it
Prior to,
you need to
Can
put
we do
it
it first? 5:30?
5:30 before the meeting. So we'll have an opportunity to talk before we talk about my agenda item.
So you actually, you begin the closed session in an open public meeting, unless you're going to change your advertisement of your public meeting to 5:30 instead of 6. I would say just do it at the normal start of the 6 o'clock meeting. It's simpler that way.
We've got time to advertise it.
That's fine.
I'd rather know our attorney's thoughts before the meeting.
Okay. Yeah, if you're gonna run an advertising anyways, that's fine. I was only thinking that the closed session would go on the website, but that's fine.
I'm not a monkey, Your Honor.
can we use our conference room? We have a new one.
Yeah, we actually could.
Could use the conference room, City Hall.
You could, it would be simpler to do it here. Again, because the theory is you begin the closed session, you announce it during the normal public meeting and then go into closed session. But if you prefer to use City Hall, we could. You'd have to come over from City Hall to here for the normal 6 o'clock meeting.
Would you charge us more?
They're gonna double dip anyway, so it's okay. We probably need to have it here, because
Yeah,
if it
it's
gets pushed
easier.
against the wire, we can't get it.
It's
Yeah,
easier.
that's true.
We have so much traffic in Mexico Beach, it's easy.
Review of the draft agenda. It's 3 times in 2 years.
Bear with me, I've been trying to keep up with the changes that we're doing, ignoring the topic as I write it down. All right, it's the usual agenda down to scheduled appearances. Under Dewberry, I've included change order number 7, because it will be here next Tuesday, it sounds like. Then it's first reading of ordinance 666. And it's going to be the budget amendment ordinance. For that ordinance, it will include the budget amendment for the fish cleaning stations, and not the fish cleaning station, the cooler, coastal parasail, the canal project. I'm going to bring it all in like we did with City Hall, and then if we don't spend it up to that, it doesn't matter, because I don't transfer until it's done. It just shows the budget has it all. And then Parker Park. We talked about Parker Park at the last meeting about that budget amendment. We talked about it a lot, but we never actually amended the budget, so I'll have that one in there as well. And that should be the 4, so I will shoot you a draft on Thursday before I put the packet out to make sure we're all on the same page
That would be great.
on that one. All right. Next one down is resolutions 2017-05. This is going to be the resolution for the courthouse in Panama City. Following that will be resolution 2017-06, which will be the resolution reaffirming the charter. We'll have it for next week. Perfect. Other business, I have the enforcement of city code, which can be removed, because that is now going to be the resolution, which leaves one item under other business, and that is the Crazy Beach Wave Runners discussion. Correct? And then reports. Anything missing? Good. But I have one more question, and that is the workshop at the end of the month. I take from the discussion earlier about the budget amendment, we want to wrap this up this month. So do we need to call a special meeting at 6 o'clock for that workshop to do the second reading and adoption of that ordinance? Because for advertising purposes, I need to know if we're going to have that.
That's fine with me, just to make that last workshop a special meeting.
And get that out.
Take care of any other business we need to take care of. Be my last one.
And on that topic as well, the effective date, everybody has a different date. They think that we switch elected officials. The charter states the first Monday, which is June 5th, not June 1, June 5th. That's it. Should be everything.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a move, so moved.
Second. Thank you very much.